the logistics having been reestablished, remember, in every military campaign, logistics comes first. So this is not a military campaign, but I thought I would just throw it there. But it gets us to our point today of our second panel, which is about tools, technologies, and campaign case studies. Well, tools and technologies are logistics in large measure. So thank you, ladies and gentlemen. Before I introduce the panelists and we get right into our discussion, I really think just based on my own personal observations, after all, after having spent a lifetime studying politics, current affairs, and U.S. politics, and being here in Washington since 1978, and I think everybody knows that the modalities of political communications have changed dramatically. This was mentioned already in the previous panel. I think lobbying and advocacy, take place on a daily basis. Everything, you watch a video and then there's a spot that says, I had an accident. I am 65 years old and I did this. Mr. President, please preserve Medicare Advantage. Tell your congressman, and then somebody else says something else and what have you. And this is constant. And so you have sometimes very well-crafted messages. They're trying to, advance a certain position or oppose another position. Don't do that, Don't give that up. This would be very damaging for this group, for the other group. The fate of the nation hinges on that. And this is constant. Well, that is advocacy, right? This is the way in which organized groups, some of them with a lot of money, can advance a certain position or oppose other position. But more broadly, I really think it's interesting to go back to another aspect of all this, which, if I may, and I think this is part of the challenges, I think, of those like all of you here in this room and joining us remotely. How do you engage people, right? If we go back to the 1960s, allow me, as somebody with a bit historic-minded, it was, I think, in the early 60s that somebody said, boy, with television, things have really changed, right? It is a legend, or maybe true or not, that in the first major televised presidential debate was 1960, John Kennedy versus Richard Nixon. Legend has it, I don't know if it's true or not, that those who listened to the debate on the radio thought that Nixon had done better. Those who watched it thought that Kennedy had done better. Why? Because Kennedy was good looking, okay? And he was telegenic. Say, okay, what's that got to do with anything? It has a lot to do with anything. Somebody has noted that no president was ever, in modern times, was ever elected who was bald, no hair. Doesn't sell. Bad image. Is that a presidential qualification? Well, apparently it is in the age of television and mass communications. And more ominously, somebody noted back in the 1960s, saying, well, with the advent of political commercials, now we're selling presidents like detergent. That's what it is. It's another commodity. And I think that's a worrisome, truth, but something that I'm sure all of you are aware of. And there's another element here, which I think I'm throwing at you for just a consideration, my own reflections here. In many countries, it's very difficult to get anybody's attention. And how do you get attention? By being different, right? Doing something outrageous, something really that's not part of the usual tools that everybody does because it's boring. Politics is boring for most people, except for people who have really engagement and committed because they've some issues that they're passionate about, but these are minorities. And again, I'm repeating things that have been said probably ad nauseum regarding the times that we're going through in this country. But back in 2015, 2016, most people acknowledged that the overnight success of Mr. Trump as a candidate was that he was not a politician. He didn't speak like a politician. And he proudly said, I am not a politician. I'm different. I am not tied to this language, to this old boring stuff. I do things differently because I come from a different background. All these people are all liars anyway. They don't mean anything. They're all mediocrities. I am a very successful businessman. I'll bring a completely different approach to politics. People thought, oh, that's refreshing. Isn't that interesting? Isn't that, this is really, and the fact that the debates turned out into shouting matches, that makes it even more interesting because that's engaging. It's like watching, pro wrestling on TV. You know it's fake, right? But you watch it anyway because it's fun. It's entertaining. And here, so this is and I'll stop here. Please forgive me for going on my own considerations. But when the line between seriousness and entertainment is blurred, and now clearly it is blurred, then we are in a very uncertain territories for democracies that rely on some degree of seriousness and engagement on real issues on the part of everybody, the voters, the candidates, and all those like you who are engaged in the process of connecting candidates, parties, issues, and the voters. So that's my broad consideration, which I'm not sure that it adds anything here, quite frankly, but I think it's very appropriate because, again, right now, and this is what we're getting into with our panel, the tools are so sophisticated that, again, the line between entertainment and serious engagement is totally blurred, and it's very difficult for the recipient, for the public, anybody on the internet, to say which is which. Not to mention what was already mentioned earlier, the industrial scale production of fake stuff that we cannot really control. By the way, sorry, last point I'm making. Some of you may know that unfortunately, very recently, Robert Mueller died, right? So that was remember the Russia issue back in the 2016 campaign? And even though his investigation determined that the Trump campaign had really no, quote, collusion with Russian agents or what have you, that was established so that there was no cooperation or sharing of tasks. But his findings asserted that the Russians were very heavily involved in trying to sway American voters through their own online tools and what have you. So that was 2016. And now the AI is booming, which it was really not yet this is 10 years ago. You can imagine how sophisticated, how complex, and how inexpensive these new tools are about influencing debates and about sowing dissent, about inventing things, and etc. So we are in a very uncertain world. And I remember asking this question of somebody, said, well, then people have to exercise their own judgment. Oh, great. Thank you. Yeah.
This is the hard
Thank
part.
you. That's easy. All right. So what am I going to do? I watch something that is on my YouTube, and I'm going to start researching it and see if it's real or not real. Spend a few hours trying to figure that out every day. Yeah, that's likely, right? That's really going to happen for millions of Americans or whatever, French or Colombians or whoever, or Mexicans or whoever they may be. Anyway, enough of that, and let's jump into our topic, which is indeed about winning elections, tools, technologies, and campaign case studies. So let me introduce briefly. You got the bios, but let me just quickly go through our speakers. Carolina, how do you pronounce Chelnik? Chelnik, who is here in person to my left, who is a political organizer and party operations executive focused on grassroots engagement, elections administration, and party building strategy in the nation's capital. She serves as executive director of the District of Columbia Republican Party, where she manages day-to-day operations, communications, and outreach, while coordinating with local and national stakeholders to expand voter engagement and strengthen the party's organizational infrastructure. Ms. Chelnick has been active in Washington, D.C. politics for many years and was the Republican nominee for an at-large seat on the D.C. Council in 2016, representing the party in a citywide election and advocating policy priorities including housing affordability and local governance transparency. Her work has centered on candidate support, community outreach, and building participation in a political environment where party representation is limited, requiring strategic coalition building and voter mobilization. Catherine Mora, who's here to my right, an international political communication strategist specializing in digital campaigning, narrative development, and multicultural voter engagement across the United States and Latin America. With a strong foundation in political science, she brings a cross-regional perspective to modern electoral communications and audience-driven political strategy. Over the course of her career, Ms. Mora has advised and supported political campaigns and candidates at both the local and international levels, working across Washington, D.C., Argentina, Bolivia, Colombia, Ecuador, and the Dominican Republic. Did you suggest Mr. Millet's idea of using the chainsaw?
No.
Was that your idea?
No,
Well,
not
I mean,
idea.
otherwise you get the prize, you know, for good visuals.
I know though.
Okay.
Very creative campaigns in
That was
Argentina.
really very good. I think at least it has some echo. Dan Tolmore, who joining us online, is an American film producer, director, and writer whose work spans feature films, television, and international acclaimed documentaries addressing major political and humanitarian events. He is best known as the producer of the Oscar-nominated documentary Winter on Fire, Ukraine's Fight for Freedom, a powerful chronicle of the Euromaidan revolution that brought global attention to Ukraine's struggle for democracy and freedom. Beginning his career in television production and political journalism, Mr. Tolmore developed a reputation for combining storytelling with geopolitical insights. Today, he's regarded as a leading creative voice in documentary filmmaking focused on democracy, conflict, and global political change, frequently participating in international forum where media, politics, and public opinion intersect. Then we have also online Ina, forgive me if I pronounce it badly, Cochero, I hope it's correct, expert in green transition and economist with over 25 years of experience, member of the Parliament of the Republic of Moldova, 2021-2025, representing the Action and Solidarity Party. She was the chair of the Parliamentary Committee on Foreign Policy and European Integration and the deputy chair of the Parliamentary Committee on Environment, Climate, and Green Transition, with extensive experience in the field of green transition and international relations, promoting the adoption on draft laws harmonized to European legislation. Before her political career, Ina led environmental, non-governmental organizations contributing to the promotion of environmental and European policies in the Republic of Moldova. She also contributed to the development of civil society in the Republic of Moldova as a team member of international organizations and also as an active member of Eastern Partnership Civil Society Forum, formed in 2009 to advance the idea of a democratic and mutually prosperous Armenia, Azerbaijan, Belarus, Georgia, Moldova, and Ukraine. And finally, in person, Mr. John Artunkal, who's the founder and CEO of Argus AI, here we go, an intelligence and investigations firm specializing in AI-enabled opposition research, strategic due diligence, and advanced social media monitoring. The company leverages open source intelligence and machine learning tools to identify reputational risks, map digital footprints, and detect emerging narrative threats, before they escalate. John works across the United States, the United Kingdom, and Turkey, advising political campaigns, public figures, investors, and corporate clients on information risk and digital exposure. Before founding Argus, he worked in technology, government relations, and public affairs, supporting sovereign clients and major multinational corporations as they navigated complex political environments. He previously studied at the Oxford Internet Institute, where he researched political micro-targeting, digital influence operations, and disinformation. Well, here we have it, ladies and gentlemen, very, very highly qualified professional panel. So here is a question for all of you. Which campaign tools and technologies are currently delivering the highest impact in electoral outcomes? Now, this is a kind of a difficult question, I imagine, because there are many. Why don't we start with you?
Sure. Thank you, Paolo, for the introductions, and everyone, good morning. For sure, if we are gonna talk about electoral impact for this cycle, we have to go to AI straight because the capacity and capabilities of speed and scale, right, are like never seen before. So for this new electoral cycle, AI tools are gonna be just make the difference between what are the electoral outcomes. But the really difference is about just thinking and how these tools of AI will be generating, creating, also testing and optimizing content, right? It's right there, and this is the focus where many campaign practitioners should be able to put these strategies together, because the team the Win campaign today should be those campaigns that are able to just put technology, integrity, are able to integrate technology, data, and narratives in a single strategy.
Well, thank you.
We are start.
Brief, but to the point. Okay, let's go to somebody online here. Ina, are you with us? Hello? Probably not. Okay, let's try. She doesn't seem to be online. Okay, let's see who else we have here. Online, Dan Tolmer?
Yes, hi.
Oh, you're there. Great. Okay, Dan, I hope you had a chance to hear the question.
Yeah, I did.
Please, go ahead.
Yeah, hi everybody. So I'm Dan Tolmer. I'm a filmmaker for 35 years. Somebody in this panel probably, wasn't born that time. And my thoughts is very simple. So right now, the stream of information, and everybody talking about AI, and AI gonna increase this stream tremendously. So 60% of the voters they don't know how to actually define truths, what's true or not true. So my idea is, so the biggest issue is to earn trust. And to earn trust, I know the way which actually worked for a long time, and a well-built, very interesting storytelling documentary could explain points and actually change policy and change political approach for countries, not even for some campaigns. And I'll give you an example. If you remember the documentary An Inconvenient Truth with Al Gore, it changed all the exception of the global warming. And the recent documentary, the Social Dilemma 2025, now everybody interested what's really going on in our social media. So my idea is very simple. I don't want to take the microphone because I can take for a long time, but very well done documentary, and people actually, when they watch it, they can trust the storytelling because like we have an ability to explain the whole idea, the whole picture. So for example, my movie, you mentioned that Winter on Fire, one of my movies. So like more than 100 million people watched it, but it's not about entertainment. The news was already there for a long time. They could actually, through the documentary, to understand all the emotional and the informational picture what was happening. So I don't think like a documentary could be just the only one tool, but it's really gonna help to bring trust on a certain level. And you can build your campaign and support your campaign after you already have something. I know like everybody just saying about longer version is just not watchable, but like right now people just searching for truth. And if you build well written and well done documentary, could be a base for your campaign and really help you to win when you want to actually approach the wider audience.
All right. Well, thank you. Carolina?
Thank you. Good morning, and thank you for having me. So as a Republican trying to win an electoral victory here in DC in a Democratic stronghold, we are well aware that success relies on winning votes from Democrats. In order to do that, data and data targeting is a major part of that story. This means that we can no longer rest on the assumption that we know how someone will vote, especially in a local election, based on their voter registration. DC is an especially nuanced case for that reason because there are a lot of Republicans registered as Democrats, and because there are a lot of independents, and because there are a lot of Democrats who are not as left-leaning as their elected officials. As our Democrat co-panelists earlier have mentioned, political parties and organizations and candidates purchase consumer data. Our platforms do the same, and they use that consumer data to model an actual voting pattern or a predicted voting outcome. It means that we can tell the difference between a strong Democrat or a weak Democrat. And that's not used pejoratively, that just means we have an idea of what Democrats are most likely to vote for us if we reach them and target them. So that's been our most effective tool, is using voter outreach softwares that buy consumer data and then model that consumer data for a range of political attitudes that are more amenable to our message. Thank you.
Thank you. John, same question to you.
So I think that what's useful is first to conceptualize a campaign as a flow and cycle of information. So the campaign's information inputs will be things like your research, the polling you've done, the focus groups you've done, also what's happening in the world, what the other campaign is doing, and also what opposition research you've been able to pull together. And then the outputs are your content, your ads, your messaging, everything you're putting out into the world. And then the reaction to that serves as another input and it continues. And I think the technologies that are improving campaigns are the ones that are shortening and compressing this cycle and that are magnifying the impact of the output. And so if I'm thinking about this in more concrete terms, there are three areas where I see this happening. The first one is about the sort of social research. Now, I don't think that pollsters or people who run focus groups are necessarily going to be out of business, but you cannot run a poll or a focus group every week or every day even. What you can do is use AI-based media monitoring tools to work out if sentiment towards a candidate is getting better or worse day in, day out. Was that message landing or not? And not just measuring sentiment quantitatively, but qualitatively what is being said. So there is a role for AI and social media to partially, not replace, but supplement things like focus groups. The second area where I see this happening is in this sort of data infrastructure, like you were talking about, and advertising. I mean, you can now make 40 different versions of the same creative, the same ad instantly. You can produce and iterate far faster than ever before. And the way these ads are now run is that the A/B testing can be done automatically too. So the impact of the many creatives that you are making for each of your different target audiences is going to get better and better. And the third and final area, which is what I sort of deal with day in, day out at Argus, is from the candidate vetting, due diligence, and opposition research perspective. The way in which you can run these investigations is such that things that used to take days can now be done in hours. You can approve a candidate, map their digital footprint far faster. You can approve campaign staff much quicker as well. You can vet them much more quickly than before. And with opposition research, you're far more likely to yield things than you may have been in the past. And the speed at which you do that's really important, because if an event happens and you can immediately put out opposition research that relates to it, you're far more likely to have a really big impact. So it's those three areas that I think you'll see the biggest sort of improvements for campaigns.
All right. Well, now let's go to individual questions. So for Catherine, based on your work across Ukraine, Latin America, and the EU, how do narrative strategies differ across these regions? What distinguishes effective rapid response communication in high-risk or crisis-driven campaigns? Easy question.
Easy question, right? First of all, thank you, Paolo, for the introduce the question. My work has been deployed in United States and Latin America, the Caribbean, but not in Ukraine yet. So
Okay.
let's do it. But yeah, narrative are defined and shaped by institutional trust and levels of trust in government, right? So United States have relative stable institutions, right? So this is reinforced narratives of continuity, policy competence, and long-term government. In contrast, Latin America, we have really institutions that are more fragile. So narratives are more disruptive and centering on antitrust and anti-establishment energy, centering in candidate credibility and really polarized speech, like a change or continuity, and also is a kind of anti-systemic promises in some way. So we see the contrast between narratives between USA, Latin America, but also there is something very important that is happening right now in Latin America. So Latin American narratives are increasingly shaped by external pressures. So USA-China competition in the region is something that is really shaping different kind of perspective and politics and policies. Also immigration and increasingly nearshoring, friendshoring, and economic perspective for every country. So many candidates, political campaigns, and political space will be aligning with the political and geopolitical movement, right? So you will see candidates and political campaigns looking Washington, looking how these kind of new platforms or political platforms will be seeing how aligned with this administration, and we'll see how Trump and his message and his influence will be changing and shaping political campaigns in Latin America. So Colombia had elections 2 weeks ago, parliamentary elections. We'll see also how this pendulum move, right? The region have always this kind of projection and movement between the left and wing, and looks like that the projection is countries are moving more through the wing side, to the wing right of the politics, and see how just they want to align and play this geopolitical game with to try to just be the best option for Trump and for many kind of investors that want to go to Latin America. Countries want to position better and see what is play the game in some way, right? So this is most of about narratives. Of course, Latin American narratives are in another perspective. We are countries that we have inequality, inflation, economic challenge. So in Latin American narratives are just more aggressively unpolarized and also anti-establishment speech. So what was the end of the question?
Oh, that's it.
Yeah.
What is what's
Anchoring
most
under,
effective?
yeah, exactly. So, well, what is distinguished in the highest risk, narrative for the high and rapid response of in environments of political campaigns, I think AI is really a new tool that will be just helping political and strategic teams inside the political campaigns to answer and to connect, fast answer and connect with audiences. So we need to just take care of the message, be really transparent and honest, and connect with the audience from a space of genuinity and honesty in politics. So thank you.
Thank you. Okay, yeah. All right. Dan, back to you. How can documentary storytelling be operationalized as a political campaign tool? What makes visual storytelling more persuasive than traditional campaign messaging? I guess you've already addressed that before. Maybe you can expand on your.
Yeah, I expand a little bit because, like, just first of all, everybody talking about AI, but AI is just one of the tools who could help us to actually expedite the production and actually to address it more directly. But still, like, okay, let's talk about audience, and it's the same everywhere for the movie maker, for the lobby, for the election. So, like, the audience we are looking for right now, they're very good at one thing. They're very good at ignoring direct message. They're good on that. So, like, we have to respect their intelligence and give them a chance to explain what we really want to do. And we explain the subject, and, like, I understand the only thing which actually gives them that opportunity is a bigger format as well done documentary. And right now we are experimenting in a very new, interesting format. It's called short vertical documentary series, which gives the opportunity to explain, and especially for the younger audience, let's say people before 30, 35, because they spend like 12 hours in front of the phone, and they don't have time to go to the Netflix to watch probably the whole big documentary. So we produce this series, which every episode is from 90 seconds to 2 minutes. It's still a documentary, but it's made with the cliffhanger every episode to episode, which gives them the opportunity not only watch that until they have an ability to and explain the whole subject we want to explain. It doesn't matter, is it political or environmental or some policy? Like I said, well done documentary or the local series, which made, with the help of AI, don't get me wrong, I really like the tool, which give us the opportunity to get to the point with our potential voters.
Well, thank you. To John now, I guess again, you've touched upon it before, but you can elaborate further. How is AI transforming opposition research and digital risk detection? To what extent can predictive analytics identify and neutralize narrative threats before they escalate? Again, another very easy one.
Sure. So when it comes to opposition research or due diligence or candidate vetting, you should think of how AI is changing things in two ways: its capabilities and its speed. So I'll touch on capabilities first. The quality of the tools available to practitioners is getting better and better. So to give one example of this, I use facial recognition tools basically every single day to retrieve images that exist of a research subject from the open web. The accuracy of those tools is stunning, and it gets better and better. It's far, far better ahead than it was just a year ago. So that's one, and your likelihood of yielding something for the client is much higher. The array of tools, the variety of tools is also just getting more and more each day as well. So your capabilities are really expanding. I'm not a programmer, I really don't know how to code, but even just using Claude and some script that people post on GitHub, I could make a tool that allows you to retrieve deep web data on a specific research subject. So the breadth of tools and the quality is getting expanded. The second is speed. So I don't believe in using generative AI for for the actual reports themselves. I think all investigations still need to be human-led, human-driven. But for parts of investigations where it's a very predictable or repetitive workflow, you can really reduce the time that it takes to do an investigation. And so the benefit for campaigns and for businesses is that getting a turnaround on a report or investigation is a lot shorter. But the big real opportunity actually lies with opposition research in terms of speed, because you really want to be able to get the story out quickly. And so there was one good case study of this. Last year there was the gubernatorial race in Virginia, and the Republican candidate was Winsome Sears. And the best week of that entire campaign for Winsome Sears was when there was this protest regarding sort of trans students, and one of the protesters had held up a sign, sort of a disparaging, sort of inflammatory sign that had referenced the candidate's racial background. And within a few hours, that activist was identified as having 1 degree of separation from the opposing candidate, an affiliation with the local opposing party, the Democratic Party, and also 1 degree of connection to George Soros, who had funded an activist group that that person was affiliated with. So I mean, that story and those associations that came out of it meant the campaign could get huge traction on X and huge traction on traditional media like Fox News. The end result was over $1 million in donations within a week, huge grassroots activism sort of increasing as well. And it was just a sort of big uptick for that period of time. So I think that's an example of where AI making something happen within hours has a real tangible impact. And just very quickly on that second part of the question on detecting narratives, I think AI is making it easier to detect emerging narratives on social media online. So whether it's authentic or inorganic, it can detect it so that a campaign can respond to a narrative much more proactively rather than being reactive. But in the case where a campaign or a candidate is the victim of an inorganic narrative, and your tools are able to detect this, you can turn the story away from what that campaign was about, and the story instead becomes that there was a coordinated negative campaign using bot accounts and fake news by the opposing campaign. So I think that's an opportunity of sort of narrative detection in AI as well.
Thank you. Quickly, unfortunately, we're running out of time. Carolina, last but not least, for you, from your experience, how do grassroots mobilization and party infrastructure interact with digital campaign tools? What are the key challenges of building voter engagement in politically unbalanced environment? That's, I guess, your experience here in DC, I guess.
I can't promise to cover all of that.
Yeah, please, do your
I would
best.
say, 2 main ways that digital communications are improving the voter outreach effort. So as our co-panelists have mentioned earlier, door knocking is still the most effective and I would argue democratizing way of getting the vote out. So 2 ways, when we reach a voter, we have more nuanced information. I mentioned before that now we have a better idea of that person's potential for voting against what they are officially registered as in their party. And so we can now see beyond official party registration. And so that gives our voters and our candidates more confidence. A lot of these tools are really nuanced. They are creating potential messaging on the behalf of campaigns and volunteers. I actually think that's a little bit of a limitation. I think in the local politics space, our best tools are adaptability and our ability to listen, to be able to take in information and then do that retail politics. Which leads me to my second point, which I think that one of the biggest advantages of these digital communications tools and data tools is the insights, the information that we learn from the voters and the constituents, and our ability to digest, analyze, and distribute that information. I ran for office 10 years ago, and my campaign was a big paper campaign. The maps were on paper. If you were lost, you were screwed, and the voter information was all on paper. Now everything is on an app, and that's the industry standard. What that allows us to do is to check mark, specific prompts or questionnaires that we create based on that person's issues, what's important to them, their favorability, if the data was correct, and then type in these notes that I used to handwrite and then transcribe for myself, mostly unsuccessfully because of bad handwriting. And so this allows us to now get more detailed, specific, granular information about the voters that we encounter and to distribute and analyze that information.
Thank you. Our colleague from Moldova. Is she with us? Hello?
Yes, I'm here.
Okay, I'm
Hello?
sorry, I don't see here, I regret to say, a prepared question for you, but can you address any of these points? Unfortunately, we didn't have you earlier for technical issues, but about tools and challenges of the using of tools in campaigns, from your perspective of Eastern Europe and Moldova in
Yes,
particular?
very shortly. I understand that we're running out of time. I'm in Paris now, actually, and it's very difficult to find a space here in the conference, a spot where I can connect to you. But it's a pleasure to be with you today and to speak a bit about Moldova and about those tools which guaranteed the second mandate for the Action and Solidarity Party, which is having the majority in the Parliament of Moldova. So that happened due to the geopolitical reasons and to the fact that Moldova undergoes through a very strong hybrid war, and then security issues which were brought into the attention of the electorate. They determined the success for the party to win the second mandate. And due to the fact that there were no other European parties in the country, and due to the fact that in Moldova it's a favorable electoral system mechanism, and here I speak about nationwide proportional representation. This again was in favor of the party, of Action and Solidarity Party, to win the second mandate. What we have also, and it's a very particular thing for Moldova, is more than 1 million Moldovans living in the European Union and who understand what the European way for Moldova, democratization of the society for Moldova means. So these 1 million people, they determine for several times already, they determined the election of pro-European candidates. And here I refer to Maia Sandu, the president of Moldova, winning in 2020 and 2024 the mandate for the president of Moldova, and then Action and Solidarity Party winning again twice the mandate in the parliament of Moldova. And it's important to mention also the fragmented opposition. We have a pro-Russian opposition in the country, and it is represented in the parliament. Out of 101 MPs in the parliament, we have 46 representatives of pro-Russian parties, but these more fragmented, and they did not participate in one bloc in order to consolidate this electorate and to bring a better score in the parliamentary elections. So Moldova is continuing its pro-European path and the path of democratization of the society, and hopefully these values will become the fundamental values for the Republic of Moldova for the next years to come.
All
Very
right.
shortly.
Well, thank you. Thank you. And with that, we can conclude this panel. Just allow me, if I may, using the privileges of the chair, to provide final considerations of my own, drawn from my understanding of history. A well-functioning democracy is premised on informed citizens, actively engaged. Some of you who studied the classics or what have you may remember Pericles' funerary oration, as reported by Thucydides in the Peloponnesian War, in which he said, "We Athenians are the education of Greece, because for us, public service participation is an honor and a duty. We are free men. Nobody will tell us what to do. And we act and we vote according to our understanding and conscience." That was a pretty lofty statement, saying we are superior to all the others because we are free people. And the free people in this city-state understand the meaning and the obligations of citizenship. Well, in reality, it wasn't so. When you had in direct democracy Athens, let's have a meeting, let's all meet at the Agora, let's discuss this and that, half the people didn't show up. It's as simple as that. Like today, half the people don't vote. They didn't show up. They couldn't be bothered. It wasn't that interesting to them. And if I may just digress just a little bit more, bear with me. In Rome, where, at the beginning of the Roman Republic, obviously, theoretically, there was people who vote for the election of public officers. The most important were the consuls. And what did the candidates, particularly deep-pocketed candidates, do? They offered free games, the circus. You've heard the expression bread and circuses. Well, that's panis et circenses. The thing that a good candidate wanted to do to get the favor of the people was sponsor and pay for very expensive games and free distributions of grain, okay? That would be your tax cuts, okay? You're subsidized this or that. Your special provision, exclusion on that, what have you. So nothing much has changed. And also let me mention this to conclude, that one of the key elements of political success of Julius Caesar in his quest for power in Rome, he was a general, he was a very smart man, very great writer, etc. But the most important political office that he had that helped him to become consul was to be Pontifex Maximus, which meant coordinator of all religious rituals. Okay? And let me leave this with you, that the Romans said, religio instrumentum regni. Religion is an instrument of power. So as you can see, things haven't changed that much. Participation is assumed, and it's not there. And manipulation via donations, freebies and what have you, is as ancient as our civilization. On the other hand, Thomas Jefferson said, repeatedly, that you cannot be both free and ignorant. So there you go. That's the challenge for all of us. Thank you.